Hello, I'm Roberto Baldwin, and welcome to the Stupid Podcast Ideas podcast, where we will take your worst podcast schemes, talk about what they could have been, and then promptly send them to the trash heap of hubris. The new podcast will be available every Tuesday and Thursday until folks decide they just don't want to talk to me anymore. Today's podcast is sponsored by Existential Dread. Staring off into the nothing, contemplating your choices now and in the future? That's Existential Dread. Welcome to episode number 4 of the Stupid Podcast Ideas podcast. And my guest today is Yoda on Twitter, an amazing screen name, Drew Olenoff. How you doing, Drew?
You know, I'm like everybody else right now. I'm somewhere in between laying on the floor in the corner crying and I ate something for lunch. So I'm somewhere there. I mean, all things considering, every cliche you're hearing, all things considering, very lucky, have the health. I hope you're well. It's been a while, so it's a pleasure.
It has been a while. So how are you keeping from being lying in the corner, sobbing uncontrollably?
Well,
you might be doing that sometimes. I mean, and it's
no, that was last week, to be completely honest. I mean, it's interesting because I've kind of done quarantine stuff before when I went through cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. I did 60 days in the hospital on the hospital floor. This is somehow, I mean, people are like, oh, you've dealt with really, this is worse actually. Mm-hmm. So what am I just try to keep like a schedule. We don't have a yard, but we have a little deck. So we do get to go outside. I feel better when I'm outside. Mm-hmm. Wi-Fi sometimes extends there. I'm not watching any press conferences. I'm not going to name names of people because
it's infuriating to watch the press conferences. So you're better.
It's baffling. I watched one yesterday and I hadn't watched for a week and I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing. No. So I was just like, that's it. I'll read the cliff notes or whatever. Yeah.
It doesn't help. It makes it worse.
Yeah. Oh man. I read a good meme that explained it all was your alcoholic quarantine alcoholic name is your first name and your last name. that pretty much sums up my coping techniques. Yeah. All right, so you're the Stupid Podcast Idea podcast. Is that what it's
very
called?
Difficult to say. I wish I had that name. For some reason, I keep wanting to say Stupid Ideas podcast, but then I just thought it'd be better if he says Stupid Podcast Ideas podcast, because if you put podcast, and people just think it's an error. Like, oh, he double writes things, which is something I actually do all the time. A lot of thes and ands when I'm writing.
Right.
But now it's every time I say it, Stupid Podcast Ideas podcast.
Right.
And then I get everything else wrong, but I just finally got that correct.
But it's a way better name than like Don't Touch Your Face or something like that.
Don't Touch Your Face podcast.
Like Don't Touch Your Face podcast. Like nobody would click on it ever. Or if it was called I Am Touching My Face, is that a podcast I'd want to listen to?
I'm touching my face, and now I want to.
It's an ASMR thing.
I thought about shaving today, and then I didn't.
Yeah, well, neither did I. Because who cares?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's what it's like. So I'm saying like our time period right now, what we're going through, this time of quarantine. It's not forever, but it is kind of like the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because like points don't matter. It's like whatever. Nobody wins. Everybody wins in the points event. Yeah, everybody wins and the points don't matter. So there you go.
There's no prize at the end of this if you've started an actual podcast or you've written an album or you wrote a book. There's no prize for that.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay. But what do you want to talk about? You're handling. You're good. You're feeling good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Hard. I can't write music other than the weird song I wrote for this. I can't like get in the headspace to do that, but I'm doing like weird music stuff with friends online where we just like cover weird songs weird ways. I decided to do this because this is it doesn't have there's not a lot going on with this. It's pretty low key and chill. And if 4 people have watched the first episode, and I keep making a joke, well, as long as 4 people watched.
Well, look, my mom's going to watch this one. I can tell you that much. So, and she may share. Look, my mom, like what has happened is parents who used to be really bad, like some parents are bad with technology, older parents,
yeah,
they are better at it than I am now, because I didn't use Facebook for a while and I didn't use stuff for a while. Now that we're all stuck at home, my mom's like, oh yeah, you want to start a Facebook group and a live watch party? Ba, 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 ba. I'm like, where did you learn this? What? So they're the experts now, isn't it? The tide has turned.
you're like, oh.
Yeah. All right. So stupid podcast ideas.
So okay, so let's talk about your podcast idea. What do you have for us today?
All right. So it's called Neighbor Hub, right? And it is just literally clips of my neighbors having sex. And like, I don't know if I want to narrate it and try to like say like play by play what I think is happening. Like that's clearly like my AirPods falling out. I'm excited about this one, as you can tell. That's why I let off with it. I don't know. Or I just play the clips and then I have somebody try to say, okay, here's what I think is happening. It's like sex aids.
It's audio of your neighbors.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
I thought you were setting up cameras around the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Roberto,
to windows. I was
okay. You're getting the wrong idea. You're getting the wrong idea about me. I'm only somewhat creepy. I would not go for. Plus, I'm not allowed to leave. I'm not allowed to leave the house. So, like, no, this is through the wall, right?
The gloves.
Yeah, right.
You're like a cat burglar going around town putting up cameras. This is the podcast. It's
actually, I think that probably exists.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But no, this one would be like a audio only sex charades. So if you're listening and you go, you try to guess what's actually happening. I don't know how but this is of course a stupid idea, because how do you verify that? Do you knock on the neighbor's door later and go, I think what was happening was a certain number before 70. Can you verify that? It's just it's weird.
Have to do is realize that you'll never truly know the answer,
which makes it interesting.
But you have a poll, and you have a couple. You have a sex therapist on.
Okay.
So you, a sex therapist, and I don't know, some sort of audio scientist. Every week.
Epidemiologist, which is a word that I learned how to say.
You have to tell you, and you have to make this very like serious, like an episode of CSI.
Yeah. Oh.
Like you're digging through the clues. You ever seen the movie The Conversation?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah. So there you go. It's like The Conversation, but with your neighbors.
Okay. Right, and then you'd like the audio, you would just slow it down. It's like the film
like the
stuff.
Film. You're playing it over and over.
Left into the right, left into up into the left. Well, that might work.
I think it'll last just long enough until your neighbors find out, and then there'll be a legal battle. Well, any money in any of the Squarespace money you've made from your
from MailChimp. Sponsored by Existential Dread.
Existential Dread. See, that's why you gotta get sponsors. Like I've had Clouds, Raccoons, Existential Dread, and Gravel.
This might actually be the playlist for your next album.
those are the song titles for my next album.
Raccoons, Existential Dread. Okay. I mean, is that it? Did we only discuss one, or do you want more?
Well, is there more? Wait, hold on. So we have the 3 people.
Okay, we're still not done with this.
And then when you're done, you have to have some sort of online poll. Like as a group, the 3, like the American Idol judges, but for neighbor humping. Experts. Come up with, let's say 4. Let's say 3. You each get to pick like what's happening next door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you put it online, and then the next week you announce, well, according to
The pole, yeah.
The pole, the neighbors were doing, and like there's like confetti and fireworks and horns.
You're right. But it does have a huge engagement thing because, look, we're an end house. We only have one set of neighbors. So people need to submit their neighbors doing the hippity dippity. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a whole like engagement with the audience and the listeners, and it's, before you just had to listen to it. Now you can actually have it analyzed and discussed.
Okay.
Well,
if you use your neighbors once and then everyone else uses their neighbors anonymously.
Yes. Oh, of course, all anonymous.
Too many legal ramifications because they're making enough noise that you could hear within your domicile.
Exactly. I mean, you figured it out already. You ran it through legal. I'm totally free and clear. If I can hear it, guess what? And you know what? It may get so big, this podcast, that people may start performing and turn on microphones. They may want to be like, that was me and my girlfriend. Yo, I was on the episode.
And then they can tell you what happened.
Hub. Yeah. No, not at all. Awful. Terrible. My mom's not going to listen to this.
Oh, your mom
shut this off. Oh, she shut it off already.
No.
I think you said that, Andrew.
How dare you?
All right.
I thought we raised you better.
I mean, let's see.
More, right?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so Lego.
That was the big one.
That was the big one, though. This one, Lego My Lego, where you listen to someone narrating someone else doing Lego.
Okay, so.
Awful.
You listen
like John Madden style.
Narrating. So it's like a sportscaster for Legos.
Yes.
Would it be one or would it be two?
Wow.
Would they have the enthusiasm of sportscasters? Or would it be very like,
look, my wife never put together a Lego in her entire life. Mm-hmm. And even, our whole life, not just the time I knew her. All of a sudden, our house is full of Lego. I got a Lego Yoda. We've got Lego Friends. She's got a Disney house that she's going to do. This Lego thing is huge. It's big. And there's some copyright issues. Maybe I can't say the word Lego. I'd have to say something else.
I think you could say Lego. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to say Lego. Because you're not disparaging the Lego brand. It's not
that's fair.
It's not like you're using the Lego brand, like the neighbors are having sex while building Legos, and then you're talking about that. Because that would be Lego may not be cool with that.
Lego might not be cool with that, but probably internally they would love it. They were like, "This is like the greatest thing." Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever.
But they probably get lots of letters and videos from people who have like weird Lego fetishes.
Lego fetishes.
So that's the people you want to get a hold of.
Oh man. Well. I mean, Yoda did have a lightsaber.
To watch. You want the Lego fetishes to watch you describing your wife building a Lego.
There's probably someone who would be in that.
There is a convention somewhere. There is a convention every year.
Virtual. It's virtual now.
Well, yeah. They're really bummed this year. Last year, though, they had 500.
Last year was 500 people.
Everyone just sat around, and then someone else built a Lego, and then someone.
No, I know there's this Lego Master show now where it's like a big. That's a competition, and then it's like this is just all about like really focusing on the art of Legoing. And I don't even know if that's a word, but the art of Legoing. It's like, I can tell you. Look, a couple of situations. My wife, she thought she was missing a piece. And she was like, do I order another piece or steal it from another bag? Or do I take this all apart and start over again? It's a real conundrum. It was real difficulty. There was just heart-wrenching, it was palpable. Right?
Was it a load-bearing piece?
It was really important part, right? It was.
I would have got a piece of paper and then shaped it like a Lego and then just got like a pen and color.
It's like MacGyver style. Like, what do you do? So I think people have interesting stories. Like, when I put this Lego together, things happen. I mean, there's crazy things happen. Cats get involved. They knock a piece over. It's wild. I don't
The
know.
cats
That's
of Lego.
awful.
So okay, so you would have to so
Terrible.
you could talk about you could have people come on. Are people coming on to your show, or is it just you? Like,
I think people would get tired of like just my wife putting together Lego. So somehow, like, here's the power of video. I could watch someone putting together Lego over Zoom or whatever, and then give a running play-by-play, ask questions. How do they feel? Like, it's like mic'd up on the field, right? We're thirsting for like sports and like I think the tone, the feel would be kind of like golf. Golf is quiet and it's very like, and then maybe you put together one whole piece and then there's just clapping. And then it's just like,
look at that. Look at that. It's beautiful.
So it's
a red piece with the three
like
dots on.
It's not a competition. It's about the art.
It's not
I don't know. It's a terrible idea.
And it's, I think you would get one episode done and then be like, that was tough.
That was boring.
Because it took 4 hours to build that Lego, and I had about 3 minutes worth of commentary that anyone wanted to listen to.
But again, it's ASMR. You just put the thing up to the Lego. I'm fascinated with ASMR because I don't get it, but I can understand why people like crinkling of paper and stuff. Anyways,
I could see that.
Okay, here's the next one. This is a bad idea. It's called Remember That Time, and it's an ode to Chris Farley podcast.
It's an ode to what?
An ode to Chris Farley. You just discuss great things Chris Farley did, because remember when he did that skit, he'd be like, "Hey, remember that time?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, it would just be that. Just a podcast about Chris Farley. Remember that time, Chris Farley?
Okay, so you have how many Chris Farley movies are there? Like maybe 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so you have every bit.
By the way, I still count Shrek as a Chris Farley movie. As you know or may know, he was Shrek, right? And he started. They created Shrek. He did the voice and passed away, and Mike Myers took it over. I still count that as a Chris Farley film because it looks like him. Anyway,
that's true. So okay,
so there's an episode.
So you have 4 or 5 movies plus all the SNL stuff.
Right.
How long would each episode talk about a particular bit, or would you be like, here's 5 bits this week on what was it called again?
Remember that time.
Remember that time.
Remember that time that you were
Chris Farley, 3 or 5 Chris Farley bits.
Yeah.
And then by the time you get to episode 20, you get David Spade on. Like you just keep sending him episodes over.
And eventually he'll just give in.
Yeah, just breaking his will. You have to come on. And then he comes on, and you're like, remember that time? And he's like, no.
No, we were on so many drugs. We remember nothing.
Anything. And if he were alive, he wouldn't remember it either.
Right. No, but Chris Farley definitely, and I can say that I didn't know him, but I can 100% say that he would totally be in the Neighbor podcast. Loved it. He would every episode.
And then you have like 3 people on this because you need people to like feed off each other and get excited.
Oh, for sure. Like there are a lot of nuances in his performance. I mean, we could talk about Chris Farley all day, hence why. But that's an awful idea because people would just get like really, really tired of it. Yeah.
You could and not just you could expand it to other comedians. Like one week would be Chris Farley, then one week would be Will Ferrell, and then one week would be Bill Murray, and then blah blah blah. You could do like that.
It could expand. The universe could expand.
You could find more than 3.
But hopefully we would have a great sponsor like Existential Dread.
Yeah,
and that's the only way we could keep it going.
It's tough to get a hold of them. They're just
right. They just show up, and you're like, what? And then you forget everything you were going to ask. One podcast, it would just be a terrible idea during quarantine. Would be I Spy. It's just a terrible idea. I would have a guest on
with my little eye.
Exactly.
Get out the window. Tree. Again.
Yep. I spy my little eye. The wall. Cool.
Red hydrant.
That would be
Yeah.
yeah. I think the Ginger Cast episodes were longer than what I Spy would be.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have Cooking with Chef Boyardee.
But you have one where you're cooking with Chef Boyardee?
Yeah, it's just Cooking with Chef Boyardee.
So do you just open the can? Do you just make a 30-minute podcast about you just opening a can and then into a pot and then warming it up?
Yes, and you would want to check in the episode because you want to know if you could get it out of the can without using a utensil. Because guess what? There's double word scores, and then there's getting like ravioli out with like 2 shakes. And it could be, and 2, it could be like kind of like name that tune. It could be like, I can get the ravioli out of the can in 3 shakes. That hand movement is awful. But so shake that ravioli. There's things.
So it could be
Chef
you just warming up sweet pasta, ketchup and pasta, or you could, every episode, you take a can of Chef Boyardee and you integrate it into an actual real recipe. Like you go on Epicurious, you find real chefs with real things, and at some point you introduce Chef Boyardee to it, and you say whether or not it's better, worse, or about the same.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Chef Boyardee.
Yes.
Versus, I don't know, chef.
Yes.
And you can just Chef Boyardee versus, and then whatever the chef is that week. You can just be Epicurious. It could be Richie. Richie.
Okay, we need Guy Fieri on this show.
Guy Fieri. It could be Guy Fieri. Bam! Wait, does he do Bam? I don't know what Guy Fieri does.
No.
I just know that Guy Fieri
did Bam.
Oh, okay. I just know Guy Fieri does a bunch of wonderful
Flavor Town
things for people. I don't know anything. Flavor Town. He dresses like he's in Smash Mouth, and he's just a wonderful human. That's all I know about Guy Fieri.
Yeah, he sounds like a really good guy. So I mean, he's one of the look. I like to dunk on people too when they're goofballs, but I have a hard time with Guy Fieri because he seems like a good guy. He's like, oh, there's fires in California, and he's like right there. And my AirPod keeps falling out of my ear. So I think that's a show.
He would be on the show. I feel like he'd be like down.
Oh, snap, dude. What if the Chef Boyardee story hasn't been told, has it? It needs a book. It needs a television show, okay? And starring Guy Fieri as Chef Boyardee. I want to learn about his life, how Chef Boyardee became Chef Boyardee that we know today. Mm-hmm. It's like the KFC Colonel.
Oh, yeah. He was like, didn't do anything. He wasn't doing so hot. And then like in the 60s, one day he made some chicken and everyone's like, ooh, chicken.
Ooh, nice chicken. Yes. So
they call it, ooh, nice chicken.
Ooh, nice chicken.
Colonel Sanders story. Ooh, nice chicken.
All I can think of is Colonel Sanders chicken is So I Married an Axe Murderer, where it goes back to Mike Myers. Ooh, buy my chicken. Anyways, so yeah, that was something with Chef. I like what you're saying, where you incorporate Chef Boyardee, I think,
into another thing, and then at the end of it, you just say this was better, this was worse, or
I think that's a winner. Like actually,
because you could say, "Oh, I made this before,
yeah,
and I tasted it," and then you'll save a little, and then you'll make it again with the Chef Boyardee, whatever. You add it in whenever you want. And then at the end, you taste it. You're like, okay. And then you taste the original again. And then you think to yourself, I'm going to get diabetes. But it tastes better with Chef Boyardee.
But it tastes better with Chef Boyardee. Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually, wow. You took that somewhere. You took that from stupid to stupid, but I'd listen. So
you could totally do that. I mean, you could do that because you could use the same Chef Boyardee crap I don't know how many. There's probably like 5 different Chef Boyardee types of food stuffs.
The universe, the Chef Boyardee universe.
Yeah, the Chef Boyardee universe.
But maybe if the podcast got so big, they would expand it, and they'd be like, "Wow, we have revitalized the Chef Boyardee brand. Now that Guy Fieri's on board, we should expand the universe." And then all of a sudden, you'll just have maybe they'll do a gnocchi. Maybe they'll do something different. Just breathe new life into that. Wow. I mean, look, it's better than this one, which is shit I bought on Amazon that I'll never use again. That that's just one where I just want people to call in and just tell me what they bought on Amazon and be like, I see how that's useful now in a quarantine situation, but what are you going to do with that in a month or two? And then discuss it.
You're manning the phones. People are calling it. Hey, Drew, this is Phil from St. Louis. Hey, Bill, how's it going? Hey, I'm doing great. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes.
I bought 4,000 masks on Amazon. I thought this thing was going to last forever, and now I can't sell those things. What do you think I should do? And then you're like, oh, you could string them together, make a slingshot, or make mouse ears out of them.
And to your earlier point,
you could give them things to do with the shit they bought they thought they'd never use again.
Oh, now that's a good idea. And to go back to your earlier point about listener engagement, polls. What should Roberto do with the 4 jigsaw puzzles that he bought and never put together?
Because I don't like jigsaw puzzles.
Should he make one big mega jigsaw puzzle with the 4 scenes? Or I don't know.
Put him in a t-shirt cannon and shoot him out of school. What should he do? Probably not that. That last part.
Probably not. I mean, probably not that. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Kids.
But
jigsaw
puzzles.
Amazon.
And then I'm in jail for 2 years.
And then you maybe get it sponsored by Amazon. And then you'd have a code. Use the code, Roberto, at the end of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Crap, too. And let me know.
Use my affiliate code, 121213. Tell your friends. They buy shit on Amazon. Use my affiliate code.
Yeah, books I won't read. That's a whole other.
Swimming in money. I'll keep the same background, but everything outside of this rectangle will just be like diamonds and gold for my affiliate, my Amazon affiliate money.
I want to do the show from an Amazon box.
Yeah. Like a cat.
Hey, what's up? I'm like Oscar the Grouch.
If I fits, I sits.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like to trigger rapid fire. Like a lot.
So you've had.
So what are the other episodes? It was I'm sorry.
That's fine. There's only been one, and it went up today.
Okay.
There's been a couple about Animal Crossing, a game I've never played. There has been one about the next generation. There's what else? One about being in bands.
Okay.
There was one that was essentially a fever dream.
Okay.
They're all very just different. And it's weird because they're like when you come on and you say to yourself, this is a bad idea. And then I say, wait, what if you get Chef Boyardee and you kind of do this stuff?
Yeah.
So either A, I just make fun of your idea, which I'm still going to do anyway. Or B, my brain says, oh, this is how you could actually do this. And then I hope.
I like it.
If there's one podcast that comes out of these podcasts and it only has one episode, I've done it. I've done my job.
No, that's true. It is like you could give birth to a whole new class of podcasts. I mean, it is kind of like it's like the podcast generator or whatever, or Mad Libs.
You hit a bunch of buttons and then it spits out a podcast.
And there you go. I mean,
podcast.
I like it. So yeah, I mean, Days of Our Cuomo, I feel like could just be. That's just one. I mean, that writes itself. Yeah. But it's like the style of those Latina those dramas. Oh,
telenovelas.
Right? Telenovelas, yes. I don't know why I said that like a town. I had problems. Anyways, and it's Cuomo characters. I don't know. There's a lot. That's not even worth discussing. How does my chin look? I feel like that one has a short shelf life. I mean,
how does my chin look?
Hot or not is like, I mean, everybody now, we're just seeing this much of each other, right? And most people, they have their videos, it's like up here and they're looking down, and all we're seeing is chin. So it's like, I think people are going to be very attracted to chins more than they were any other time in the world. So that's one. Do not pass go is the name of a show. It's a podcast of people playing board games. It might need video, but it could be interesting, just audio too. I don't know. Or maybe people play the game and you guess what they're playing.
Well, the Harmontown, didn't they have like Dungeons and Dragons episodes? Like
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is not only is it stupid, it's been done.
But there was Dungeons, and then there was another one, like a bunch of comedians would get together and play Dungeons and Dragons. It might be the same one.
Interesting.
But that is intriguing. Monopoly is not, other than the crying. The anger and the crying and the shredded relationships of Monopoly.
I mean, and the whole like losing money, and it's real, right? It's too real right now.
What you could do is have people call in, tell them their worst Monopoly experience, because everyone has it. And then you recreate just that experience. Like I don't know if you want to do a radio play or a video, but you recreate like drunk history, but for Monopoly. You recreate everyone's worst Monopoly experience on video.
I would watch that.
They leave a message.
I would watch and or listen. That is, I mean, look, I'm sure many relationships have been completely finished by Monopoly. Everyone has someone in their family or friend circle that is just an absolute, a-hole. I won't curse on the show. An absolute a-hole when it comes to Monopoly, right? They're like a pro, or you've got the archetypes, right? You've got the pro. You've got the person who isn't even
taking it a little too seriously.
Yeah, and then you got the one that's not paying attention. They're like, oh, well, yeah, Park Place. And you're like, you know what? Get out of here.
Here's a fun story. When my friends and I moved into an apartment, there were 3 of us.
Okay.
And there were 2 bedrooms. And so to figure out who got the bedroom by themselves, we play Monopoly.
Oh.
And I won. And then we moved again. And now there were 4 of us and 3 bedrooms. And we played a Monopoly again. And then as we were getting close to the end, it was just me and one other guy. And I knew I was not going to win. So I just said, hey, I'll give you $50 right now if I get my own room. And he just said, okay. It was the best $50 I'd ever spent.
Ever spent? Like, who was there drinking involved? No. He just needed $50. Thought $50 would be great.
Okay. He needed $50. It was the 90s. We all needed $50.
Okay. Well, hopefully people who listen to this podcast, when it gets created, didn't hear this part, because your story, that's got to be the first episode, because there's a buildup, right? Because you've got a climax. I mean, this is like the Rocky movies.
On that game.
It's the Rocky movies, okay? Someone lost, but then they had another chance at it. Yeah. And then they were just $50, and they were like, okay. Okay.
It's like I'm fighting Apollo Creed, and he's beating me, and I've trained so hard, and then before he knocks me down, right before that, I'm like, hey, what if I just gave you $50?
And he's like, all right, bonk. That's amazing. Yes.
Good job, Apollo.
There you go.
Apollo Creed.
That's one.
Boom.
So that's do not pass.
You're writing these down. I'm not gonna do them.
No, I'm not doing any. I mean, come on. I think that's the best part about podcast. Like, look, I did one podcast my entire life, and it was called The Best Damn Tech Show, period. And it was me and a bunch of my friends, and it was like back when like Dig Nation, like Kevin Rose was like 8 years old drinking a beer, and everybody wanted to do a podcast. We had a video set up, but then we met this guy who did professional video editing, and it looked really good. The show was awful. But then we actually got guests on. Like, we had Matt Mullenweg on, and we had like guys from Pandora on, and we were in Philly, and nobody knew who we were. It was really weird. And I used to make fun of Jason Calcanis all the time, and I used to have a special nickname for him that I won't say on the show. And I saw him in an airport once, and he goes, and this is years later, right? Nobody listened to our podcast. It was horrible. Yeah. And he goes, and then he says the name. He goes, Leva, huh? And I'm like, oh, you listen to that? Like, that was.
I worked with Jason Calcanis back when he had just sold his shit to AOL.
Yeah.
And I was at TMZ.
Oh, yeah.
I started at TMZ, everybody.
Yes.
That's a whole other story. But every time we had to deal with him, we would hate him so much. He was the worst. Yeah. So if he's listening to this podcast.
Oh, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Jason Cockass. is how I would refer to him. In every episode he came up, his news, Jason Caucus. And he was.
If he wasn't a total dick every time we had to deal with him, I would have no issues with him at all. I don't care if he's whatever VCs or ridiculous idiots who got lucky for the most part. But
yeah, so best damn tech show period. My whole plan was there was a show called the Best Damn Sports Show period on Fox, and I said, guys, if we ever get popular enough, maybe we'll get sued.
Oh.
We never got a cease and desist. The show sucked. But that was.
Well, they couldn't say that you were. The issue is that people get confused by the show.
Yeah. Well, there was no confusing. Their show was watchable. Ours wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, it was your prototypical. I mean, this was like, I have a podcast tattoo, dude. Like,
wow.
Yeah, and that's from like 2005 or 6 or whatever. And we just thought, like, yeah, we'll just throw some cameras on and talk about tech. Yeah. Anyway,
that was all those podcasts back then. I mean, that's
all those podcasts now.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Everyone's got a podcast and a newsletter.
At least 7 people will listen to this, and 6 of them will be me and my personalities.
And your mom.
So, and my mom. Hey, yo, mama. Checking in with my new garden is just a podcast. This is a terrible idea. We're not doing that.
Wait, it's just you go out and look at your garden?
Yeah, you just go out and you're like, because everyone has a garden now. Again, these are very quarantine things. I'm sorry.
Everybody doesn't know what they're doing. If you can give them actual little tips and tricks in a very soothing voice, saying, hey, ferns prefer this much sunlight. So if you're putting them in your house, be sure to put them on the south side so they get a lot of sunlight. Or, well, I guess ferns are probably the opposite. Ferns probably want to be on the north side of your house, so they'll have less light every day. They get enough light, and you want to keep them moist. And that's a good 5-10 minutes just talking about ferns.
I feel like there might be a gardening tips podcast anyway.
There's got to be.
There's got to be. But I think the other thing would be funny is to have Ryan Lawler host it. And he has a new garden. He actually does. And Ryan Lawler is not calm at all, if you know him and met him, formerly of TechCrunch. He would be great to talk about. Because he'd be like, gardeners, like, this fucking thing isn't growing. And I'm like, I would listen to that. So that's just terrible.
Angry Man and his podcast.
There's a new podcast called Do Stuff, and it's just celebrities that come on the show and remind you to do your chores and stuff. And it's kind of a conversation. And you're just like, Morgan Freeman's like, did you do your little laundry or like Tom Cruise is like, wash your hands. But that's because people would listen to things if they were told. Celebrities, they listen to celebrities. That's how we have a problem.
You have to get all this. The problem with that one is just finding the celebrities to do it.
Yeah.
Or finding a rich little character in order to impersonate
the voices. Yeah. But I do think that celebrities, I mean, look, we all know celebrities don't do chores, but the quarantine is the great equalizer. I wonder, I know people still have folks that help them out and they're quarantined with them. But what happened to that one celebrity that's got all the money in the world and got stuck by themselves? They're doing chores. They're doing stuff.
They just pay people to come in and move in with them.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know, but somebody out there is doing laundry for the first time.
Or they make the person come in a big suit.
Right.
A hazmat suit, and they're just like,
I will give you $1 million to do my dishes. It's Darth Vader.
Mr. Crow. Mr. Crow, would you like me to do your dishes? They all sound like Bane.
Yeah. Bane.
Well, dishes will be done soon, sir.
Bane does your chores. There's your
Bane
podcast.
does the chores.
It's like Charles in Charge. It's like kind of that's Bane. And that's
it.
I mean, I've got another one that's a terrible, stupid podcast.
Okay, this will be the last one.
It's called Work From Home Tips. Because that's literally every podcast right now. It's just a podcast about the other podcasts that are doing work from home tips. Stop it.
And there's a lot of articles. And what's fun about the articles is that there's people who did articles like Brian Barrett over at Wired did one. Brian's been working at home for like a decade.
Right.
You're like, okay, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. Sure. And then there's people, I've been working from home for 3 months, and these are my tips. They're like, bitch, please, come on. 3 months? That's not enough. 3 months. You can lose your
No.
mind on month 4.
Exactly. Like, make sure you have a desk. It's like,
Make sure you have fine Wi-Fi. Work
Yeah,
from home tips.
That's all I got.
Okay, so this week, with Drew Olenoff, who gave us an avalanche of bad podcast ideas. We have one where you're listening to your neighbors having sex and then try to figure out like how they're doing it. There was, hey, look, here's my dog.
Hey, Pop!
Dog!
Oh.
He's so excited. Are you on the podcast? You're famous. You're podcast famous, which means you're not famous at all. We have
Jason Podcast.
one where you tell people how to work from home, one with an angry man telling you how to do gardening, one with Chef Boyardee using either just making Chef Boyardee or using Chef Boyardee.
I love your idea. I love it.
And actual recipes.
I love that one.
I feel like there's more.
There was let's see,
you have a
toilet
list.
roll for the Cuomos. There's the stuff I bought on Amazon that I'll never use again. Remember that time?
Remember that time?
That was awful, dude.
With Chris Farley.
Celebrities telling you the I Spy. Terrible idea.
The I Spy one where you just look out the window and get depressed.
And I feel like maybe there's the Lego one.
Oh, and the Lego one.
The play-by-play.
You watch somebody or listen to somebody narrating somebody else building Legos.
Yeah. I think I want someone to do the neighbor humping one because I would. It's tasteful. Tasteful. It could be done tastefully.
You gotta do tastefully. Well, we're doing the neighbor humping one. Tastefully.
Tastefully. Man, I miss hanging out with you. I will see you soon. We will be able to come out of our houses soon and travel again. And
well, thank you so much for doing the show, Drew. I really appreciate it. And again, like you said, it was great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Once I went to Cars, I just kind of stopped seeing everybody that I knew.
Vroom.
So thanks everyone for watching or listening or, I don't know, turning it on while you sleep. Reminder, we'll have the Royal Week. I'll have an episode every Tuesday and Thursday of the Stupid Podcast Ideas podcast until I run out of guests. At some point, people are going to be like, oh, God, I wish he would stop bothering me and not ask me to do his show. At that point, this will just go away, like everything that's good. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Existential dread. Thank you.
Dog!